Alright, I wanted to save this for a podcast at first, but then I thought to myself that I need to get this out of the way. So, a couple of people brought back the notion that the Snyderverse should continue through the form of animated films or comics. Here are my thoughts on that. I think that's kind of an underwhelming idea, honestly. Now, that doesn't mean that animation in general sucks or it's a bad thing, but the way it's being used for something like the Snyderverse would just seem kind of underwhelming and kind of a bit of a downgrade in terms of the sort of consistency, you know? Imagine going from 3 live action movies and the rest of it's continued through some sort of animated adaptations or whatnot. It would feel kind of disjointed and weird. Plus, it'd feel more like a sort of compromise that Zack himself wants to avoid. Say if this was being an idea that they wanted to use for like a what if sort of scenario, that would itself would make a little more sense for animation. Plus, with Warner Brothers trying so hard to mimic the success of the MCU, might as well just make your own like what if stories on DCEU. So yeah, it seemed like that would make sense for an animated project. Sequels that were meant to be live action from the start, and something that Zack wanted to do in live action, would probably feel like a bit of a bad idea. On top of that, we also have to consider just this sort of approach DC Animation has itself. I think that their most recent stuff has been a major letdown. I mean, every once in a while you get yourself something decent from the animated universe of movies, but I think since The Killing Joke, the quality of the DC animated movies has gone downhill. Then we go into 2021 with Justice Society, which looked like trash. And then the Injustice movie, which I think pretty much Injustice was the sort of final straw for the quality of these movies. So that's another thing that definitely makes me not want to see the Snyderverse go animated. I mean, maybe if we had a different writing team, sure. But I don't really want to see these characters in the same sort of, art style that the more recent stuff has. I mean, it's kind of annoying that even some fan artists, can do a better job at animating characters, or at least drawing them to look like animated characters, than the official stuff does. That's kind of sad. Like, the main idea is just the fact that it would seem more of like a strange change in quality. It would kind of feel like a bit of a out of place addition, more like a bonus thing than an actual big name project. Like, imagine if you were to go from Spider-Man 1 and then you have Spider-Man 2 be an animated film. That just doesn't make any sense. If it was a side project, like the MTV Spider-Man series, which was meant to be like its own continuation for the first movie instead of it being another Spider-Man 2, that makes sense. Another example would pretty much be like Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Now, people are going to say that Star Wars: The Clone Wars is like a reason why people shouldn't hate on animated, but thing is that the prequel trilogy was done 3 years before the Clone Wars series began, and like the Clone Wars series itself was at least trying to make itself feel more like it's something big and important instead of just being a throwaway cartoon. Whereas Snyderverse itself, like, it was intended to be a series of movies, so to have the sequels be live action would make more sense than for them to like abandon that idea, just go animated. And of course, especially now that we've seen just how short-lived the fucking motion comic was, yeah, I'm just happy that I didn't support that. Plus, like I said before, I believe it's much better to just stick with the intent instead of trying to go in a different direction, especially since I don't think anyone wants to see a Justice League 2 or 3 feel like a direct-to-video movie, which should feel more like a big blockbuster film. That's all I have to say on this sort of subject matter. I've been trying to avoid it because Snyderverse fandom can be kind of like hectic at times, but now I feel like since it was brought up again, I have to mention it at this point. So that's all I have to say, and I'll see you next time.